yeah, like just a different level of everything. So basically, coming back from this trip, that's really now where the enemy began to attack with force. But obviously, Satan being Satan, he doesn't get the plan of God. So just like when he thought that if he'd known that crucifying the Lord would have led to the Lord's will and purpose, then he would not have done it. So the same thing. So basically, he began the attacks big time. So I'm going to share a very key dream, which basically I call the life map dream that God gave to me. He gave this dream to me in August 2013. Okay, and so this dream really marked out what I was about to go through, even though it's so funny, the Lord can tell you something and you just don't even, you think, you just try to like take the parts you like, even though this dream, 3 years later, I can still remember it, but I don't have to write it down. I can still remember it so vividly because I woke up, one of those dreams where I woke up and the interpretation was automatic. You didn't have to like sit with the Lord. You woke up with the interpretation. But this is the dream. So me and my husband were leaving somewhere like school and we were being released by the Spirit into ministry. And so it was like everyone had, was supposed to come and celebrate with us back at our house. But obviously in real life, I'm in the dream, I remember thinking, but nobody knows where we live because basically in real life we had just moved back into where I live now. But we obviously when we got married we were somewhere else, so we just moved back. So I was like, nobody else knows that we live here apart from like one friend or something. So that's what I was thinking in the dream. And so anyway, we now got into a car. So my husband was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and we had two other girls behind us. So when I say girls, I'm talking young women, innit? I'm not talking children. So they were in the car behind us. So there's two girls, us and my husband and myself, and he was driving. So we were on a straight motorway road, which the road journey was supposed to be straight journey. That's what it was supposed to be. Well, maybe what I thought it was supposed to be. But in the dream, it was supposed to be just some straight motorway road. We were driving in a car. So in the lane next to us now, we see a man. So I say a man of influence because in the dream, that's what he was. He was a Jamaican man of influence. That's what he was in the dream, and that's what I say. So he was next to us, and so what happened is that my husband started to now get angry at the guy. I started like sort of cussing him, and me and the girls were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Because we don't know like how's this guy gonna respond, sort of thing. So he's driving and he's kind of getting a bit angry like at this guy, kind of cussing him a bit, and then not like swearing, but like getting a bit road ragey. And then so we were in the car and someone flashed us from behind. So my husband went to pull over, but then because this man of influence now drove off in front of him, he began to follow him. So I'm like, babe, what are you doing? Why are you following him for? And he's like, I don't know. So basically, we are now in a car following this man of influence. We don't know why, but obviously I'm in the car. I have to go wherever my husband goes. So now this man of influence ahead of us, we can see exactly where he's going. There's signs. And these signs were not no signs you see in England. They were some demonic sign, some colour that I don't even know what colour that is. And so some neck symbols and demonic language. And so the man of influence took this junction off. And we were obviously behind him because my husband's driving a car and he's following him. So we see that he basically goes over the cliff. So basically the cliff edge, and he ends up going over it. And so sorry, my camera, I didn't have any space there. I have to start again. So yeah, so he goes over the edge. So we know, because we're following him, we are also going to go over this cliff edge. So me and my husband turned to the girls in the back. We're like, right, get ready, take off your outer clothes, so that and we're going to jump out the car. So when you land in the water, you're not going to drown. So basically, our car goes over, and we jump out the car, and we end up in the sea. Okay, so at the end of the edge, over this cliff edge is sea. So there is on where we just come from, this mainland building, there's like office blocks or like story car park type building, and then you've got the sea. And so I landed really close to mainland, whereas my husband and the other two girls landed like in the middle of the sea, and there was just like some derelict broken building in the sea that they were kind of like holding on to in order to stay afloat. Obviously the sea is really deep and massive, and so anyways, I didn't see how I got from the bottom to the top of the office block or mainland. I didn't see how I got there. I just was 1 minute I was at the bottom, next minute I was on top. So now when I was on top, I looked into the sea, I saw them guys. So I started like looking for things to throw out to them to help them. So I threw out like ropes and stuff to help get them over. So my husband now, when I threw him the ropes and stuff, he helped him and the 2 girls to get across, and they got to the same, were able to get to the same top of the mainland just like I was. Now, when we got there, we now looked back into the sea and we saw that there was thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the sea. So we're like, we have to go back and help them. So we now get back into the water. So we're in the water now, we realise that it's just full of, the sea is full of babes. Like it's full of babies, I think up to preteens, I think. So just different age children, babies, children. And so when we looked up onto the mainland, we could see like all men, like fathers and stuff. But then down here, so I just knew that they were orphaned, that they were abandoned, and that they were abused. I just knew that. And so anyway, the other thing that was different, that they were all like drowning in the water, but for us, it was up to our ankles. The water was now up to our ankles. And the other thing was that the water was not water anymore, it was milk. So basically, we now started helping them. So it was me, my husband, the 2 other girls, and then a few more people started helping us. And we basically were like parents, helping them across a crime frame, teaching them how to get from this milk all the way up to the mainland where all the fathers were. So that was what we were now doing. And then I remember also the last thing was that there would be, from time to time, a man will come and pretend that they're going to help the children, but drown them face down in the milk. So I remember one time getting a man and ripping him off a child and sending him away, and rescuing a child. And obviously we would teach them how to climb, how to walk, how to get across to the mainland. Now, the end of the dream was, I turned to my husband and said, babe, look, we started off as amateurs, not knowing what we're doing, but now look, this is what we do. People come to us for help. And that was the dream. So that was the life map dream. That basically, God was basically showing me what I was about to go through, but also the end result of this. And it was basically not only what I was about to go through, it was actually a past, present, and future dream. So really summarizing, because this video is so long, I'm so sorry, guys. So basically, us being released from ministry was basically the same thing. Like, we both knew when we came together and God called us to said, this is your husband and wife. We knew that God called us to ministry together. We both knew that. So obviously that us being released in the spirit is basically, in the dream, is basically that representation that God has released us into ministry. But obviously the journey supposing to be straight is basically how I thought the journey was going to go. I thought it was going to be a straight road. We're going to get home. We're going to have a party. That's what I thought. We're going to be nice and glamorous, that glamorous ministry life. And it really, the Lord had another plan. So we're in a car. So obviously car representing our life, our journey. And my husband driving, me being a wife, in his wife going where he goes. So the man of influence represents his father figure. And the fact that he followed him, it represents this what I shared earlier with regards to us being taken off track in deception and ending up off a cliff. So whereas the enemy meant that for evil, God actually had intended that to be for good. So God had intended that to be for good. So actually over the cliff is actually where our ministry is and needs to be. But yeah, so we following him off that cliff. And the fact that I landed closest to mainland basically and got to the top of this place first, basically represented me getting to that place of spiritual maturity first, getting into my office first, getting to the place of destiny first. And the fact that there was that period where we were separated. So he was in the mainland sea, which represents, because later on that's where all the children were. That represents being a spiritual infant in Christ, being, in a place of abandonment, in a place of destitution, just like the broken down building, and me being up here and me getting to that place. It's only when I got to that place that I could now help him. And then obviously he helped the other 2 get across too. I don't know who the other 2 are. I think I have an idea, but I don't know for sure still. But basically we have other people with us in this journey. And then when we were both at that place, so obviously I had my individual positioning, place of maturity, calling, and office. But when we both got to that place, that's when we looked back and we saw that there was thousands of children. So this ministry that we have together, that we've known we have together, only when we both get to a place can we look back and we become the spiritual parents that God needs us to be, to raise up people from spiritual infancy to maturity in Christ, and pretty much, and obviously help keep those wolves that try to drown the children down in the milk, keep them away as well. So that kind of summarizes the calling concerning our marriage and what we called us to do together. But there was this period of separation, And, you know, even as I explain it now, at the time I still didn't even, during this next part of my journey was when I really came to only really, can I say, like the last week or the last month has the Lord, like for the last 3 years, been trying to get me to a place to understand, Torema, you have an individual calling as well as a calling that I called you to together in marriage, but you have an individual calling as well. And that was something I really struggled with. And so the last 3 years was the Lord really making me to the vessel for my individual calling, obviously as well as the calling together. But obviously it's only when I'm in my individual place that I can even be who God needs me to be to help my husband come to that place too. Obviously, there was this period of separation. The Lord was preparing me for what was about to happen. This is August 2013. So, now we're going to start the realness, guys. So, this is where my enrollment really starts. My enrollment into the Abba School of Sonship, into his process of sonship, really starts. All this other stuff, like I said, was preliminary examination. It was, you know, the Braxton Hicks contraction. This is where the real journey really started, where the labour pains really started. So October 2013, my whole life fell apart. My whole world shattered. So I found out, October 2013, I found out for the first time that my husband had been unfaithful to me. So, you know, like I said, from the time his sister died, I began to feel those, you know, you feel the strain in your marriage. You begin to feel, you know, things are different. You've been treated, he's not treating you nicely, like just acting like you're a slave, like you're supposed to do this, not talking to you, not caring, spending time, all that kind of stuff. Just little things, not little things, but those kind of things. You know, you start to feel those little things like where you would always do things together, where you always communicate, we always talk about things. You know, you were in agreement, like you have the same agreement and stuff. And you just felt that drift, you felt that change and all that kind of stuff. And obviously I'd seen you stop praying, you stop reading your word, all that kind of stuff. So as a wife, you basically get the first hand effects of these things. And so October 2013 was the first time I found out he had been unfaithful. And so that was like my whole world just shattered. Like my little pretty picture that I thought I had, because obviously up until that point, it's like Torema's married. Every time someone meets you, obviously the fact that you're young, the fact that I look young, obviously people still think I'm a teenager when they see me now. Because I look young, I'm young, you got married at 20, oh my gosh, you're married. And obviously everyone idolizes marriage, so they're just like, oh, you're married. And obviously you look like you had the perfect picture already, because you know how you did things, or you done things God's way and all this kind of stuff. Everyone just loved the story, loved the picture, idolized your marriage. And obviously, true say, I guess marriage was an idol for me as well. And when the Lord had that was the next thing, part of identity, is like your identity cannot be anything else apart from me. So that was the beginning. So October 2013, I found out that. But obviously, the Lord done something in me, because I was willing to forgive and continue. Like the pain was real, but the Lord gave me some kind of peace. I don't even know how to explain it. Because the funny thing is that up until that point, I used to just say, if we had a conversation like earlier on, I don't even know, before we got married and stuff, I used to be like, I'll just leave. That'll be my mentality. Like if someone cheated on me, I'll just leave. Like forget it. Like I'm not having that. Like forget that. So I'll just leave. And so you know, October, then obviously we go into the new year. You know, that year was so annoying because everyone was prophesying best year, this year that. I'm thinking, mate, my 2014, the first day of the year, mate, I'm thinking, if you even knew, the pain was so real. Like, it was just unbelievable. So it's the beginning, you know, the new year, went into the new year with my husband having the most miserable face you've ever seen. But basically, finding out in 2014 that he'd been having an affair for 8 months. Now that, you know, the one I found out in October, there was other things I had to deal with, but that was like, oh my days. Like I'd never cried like that before in my whole life, from the pit of your stomach. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And obviously on top of that, he was just saying stuff like, I don't know if I love you, I don't know if I want this and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I had the biggest fear at that time was just that, how am I going to look after myself? Because this guy had been looking after me since I was 18 years old. And now he's saying, I don't know if I love you, I don't know if I want this, and that he wants to start fresh and leave, and basically all these things. And so it was just like, I had such a big fear, like, Lord, what am I going to do? So anyway, I just left out for a few days at that time, and I didn't want him to leave at that time. I just prayed. I was praying, Lord, please, and I just had to really ask the Lord, please don't let him leave, sort of thing. And I came back, and he basically said he would stay and he would try. But obviously, he didn't really try. So there's one thing to say with your mouth, there's a different thing to actually do it with your actions. He didn't try. But yeah, things were just really horrible. Atmosphere-wise, obviously, I was willing to forgive. Obviously, when the person doesn't even want to try and you're the person, like, it was just really, really difficult. Anyway, fast forward now, let's say February, his granddad died. So when he was still when he still lived in Jamaica, his granddad looked after him. And so when his granddad died, I was just like, Lord, seriously, how is this supposed to bring the guy closer to you? Honestly, how? But anyway, he ended up going away for like a month, and during that time, I had the opportunity to really, because the atmosphere in the house had been really difficult, really oppressive for me, really horrible for me, and so like, when he gone, it just gave me a chance to freely seek the Lord, freely ask God what's going on, because also what I've been feeling was like that he was holding me back. That's how I felt at this time. Like, I always felt like I'm ready for this ministry thing, and it's all because of him that I can't do anything. Like, all because of him. It's not fair. And so the Lord really spoke to me, and one of the things he really spoke to me about was headship and what it really means. You know, having a head covering, like understanding that spiritually. And so he just gave me a lot of clarity and showed me how he could release me from ministry, and how I could serve under other ministries while I was still in this place of waiting for the Lord to bring order in my marriage. So that was really freeing, and it was also really freeing because obviously we had a mission trip the year before, so it was like this pressure of like, when's the next one, and me just feeling like my marriage is a complete mess, like I'm not going to continue ministry. So having everyone kind of come to that same place of, we'll wait with you, that was like a really great thing. So that month really brought a lot of peace, a lot of clarity. Obviously him coming back now, I was willing to serve. I've always wanted to, you know, be the wife that serves and submits to her husband, all of that. But then to have someone who just doesn't even want to, doesn't even care, like, it was just, or doesn't appreciate, to feel unappreciated is not a nice thing. So anyway, a lot of things to come back, just basically horrible atmosphere. Long story short, he had made it sound like, he basically came back and was just like, I want out. And also up until this point, he made it sound like by telling me what he'd done, that he wasn't doing it anymore. But basically by like April, basically found out he doesn't want this anymore. He's out, like he's done, even though he didn't try any of that kind of stuff. But then also find out that you've been continuing the whole time. No wonder you haven't tried. No wonder you're not remorseful, or even showing like that kind of repentance. You're just like speaking it, saying the truth will set you free. The truth is not just to say what happened. That's not the truth. Jesus is the truth. So there's a difference. So basically by April, he basically wasn't living at home anymore, and so that was like the biggest. That was like basically this 2014 was just like pain on a different level altogether, you know. And what I had to do in this season from this time all the way to August really was like a season of, the word I had was really just only keep believing. So basically from this time, the Lord was just bombarding me with his word, bombarding me with his promise that he will restore this marriage. And this was not me saying, oh Lord, please restore my marriage. This was God telling me, I'm going to restore your marriage. I'm going to restore your marriage, like over and over again. And obviously, bearing in mind, even if the Lord never said anything to me during this time, he already told me everything before we even started this, before I even found out anything. While I still thought my life was rosy, he already told me everything. So I'm going to restore your marriage, bombarded me. And so basically I had to get to a place where I had to make my circle so small, and like the only people that knew what was going on, I didn't even tell my parents. My parents didn't even know at this point, you know. So then ones where it was like, I had to make my circle so small and only keep believing. I could only have people around me that could hear what God's saying, see what God's saying, and would say what God is saying. I couldn't have anything else, because God had to get me to a place where I believed, only kept believing, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances. And so to believe that the promise that he'd given to me, he would do it. And so that was like really that first part of 2014. And then moving on to the next, from like September, he really shifted it. From 2014, like September forward, that's when he really started to get onto me about the fact that I've given you an individual calling. Something that I really struggled to understand before. Like I said, I just really thought that my purpose was all connected to my marriage, like everything was one. He's like, no, you as an individual, I've called you. Before you even met your husband, I already told you, you know, who you are, what I've called you to, like, you're called, like, he told me, I already knew that I was called, you know, to a ministry, called to be an apostle, them kind of things. I didn't know what it meant, but he told me that from before. So realising that as an individual, that he's called me to something. As an individual, he's taken me through a process as an individual. And that's when he really began to start to unfold the process to me. The process of like showing it to me on an individual level. And the fact that he called me to, this is a pattern that he's called me to deliver to the body of Christ. The process of sonship, how he raises us up to become kingdom priests unto him. The process that he takes us through is very specific and showing me where mine had been during this time. So I'm going to try and miss out a lot of things, and I'm probably going to just stick more towards the marriage side of things and athletics, because I really can't say everything. This video is way too long. So basically, fast forwarding to, you know, going through this thing where, you know what God has said, but then assuming that it's now, going through those disappointments, you know, being so faithful but interpreting wrong, and those kind of heartbreaks, and obviously have to face and go dealing with the shame. The shame was one of the biggest things. Dealing with the hardship, obviously, when everyone, especially being like when you're in your 20s, like especially in the church, all everyone cares about is marriage. Like that's all they care about. Like their whole life is about marriage, it's about preparing. I'm thinking, and obviously people just assume. So shame, fear, like all those things, God having to deal with them so much so, because if the Lord had not dealt with shame, if the Lord had not healed my heart, if the Lord had not, there's no way that he could raise me up to be who I need to be. There's no way that I could even make this video, because I'll just be caring what people think. Whereas now it's like, I actually just don't even care. I know who I am in Christ. Like my whole being is in Christ. Like my security is in him. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter if, my husband doesn't want me, doesn't want this right now. Like, what does that doesn't change who I am, and what God's called me to do doesn't change it. So so just really having to trust God financially, because obviously the fact, like I shared, him having had someone provide for you for all those years, and then like now you just, obviously the fact that you work a job, what I was working, basically being forced into having to work a bit more, but obviously not actually having on paper enough to pay even your bills. And then obviously then the Lord comes to next year, the Lord telling me to leave work, and then the Lord telling me to go back to athletics, and then the Lord telling me to basically just having to trust God after trust God after trust God after trust God. I don't even think I can really finish sharing this whole story, because I just think this video is very long. I'm so sorry, guys. I thought that it would be more, I don't know. I just realised that my testimony is so long, I have to put it into compartments. I actually know the compartments, depending, because the Lord will call me to specific things. So depending on those compartments, I can share on those areas. But what I really want to say is that, at this point now, where I am now is my husband doesn't want this. We're still separated. We're still in that period where he's in the middle of the sea. Like, he hasn't got a clue. Obviously, as far as he's concerned, he's made his mind up. He doesn't want this marriage. And obviously, for me, having to face the reality of the situation, but still believe God and know what God has said, and get on with what God has called me to do. Because at the end of the day, like the Lord showed me, it was me in my place, in my office, doing what God had called me to do. That's only when he came back. So I'm not, like, holding my breath, like, not in a bad way, trusting God, but understanding that I have to be obedient to what God is calling me to do, and not being affected by that. I'm back in athletics now. I actually genuinely thought I was never going back to this thing, but the Lord basically had to take me out. He had to transform me, renew my mind, make me into a shepherd. I became an ordained pastor last year, and so the Lord really had to renew my mind, get me to a place of to see things from his perspective, so that when I'm an athlete, I'm not just an athlete who stands on the podium and says, I want to thank God and let me just give money to this and give money to that. Like, I'm actually fully his. I'm actually purity, as he's called me to be. And and obviously with regards to just waiting on God with regards to business and what he called me to do there, and just trusting the Lord. And so I really know that this video is really quite patchy and quite messy, but I just pray that even in something in this, obviously I'm sharing this testimony as I'm going through this testimony. Say, like, 10 years into Christ, like, it just seems like the Lord is just taking everything. But that's literally what this journey is, a journey of divine exchange. But in you, the more you give, the more of him you get. And so it's like, the way that I know him, like, basically I would not be able to have received, to know and understand the process of sonship if he hasn't taken me through it myself. Obviously, I'm still going through it. I'm only just, about to come out of the grave. That makes sense. So it's like, I'm sharing this video, even in faith. I'm sharing this now so that when, say, in the future I make a video and my husband's sitting next to me, it's like, people can know this is real. Like, God is real, and share my testimony as I am, where I am. And just to know that the Lord can heal. Like, the Lord can heal. Like, so amazing. The Lord, just trust in God. And obviously, nowhere in the Bible, when God told them to do something, did it look possible? It looks ridiculous. You look like a crazy person. I've been called crazy. I've been called everything, you know? People look at me, oh, poor, they feel sorry for you. You've been waiting for how long? Poor girl. You know, it's not a feel sorry for me thing. You don't need to feel sorry for me. Like, I actually praise God. And obviously, it'll be hard for people to understand. It's like, we have a mentality as well. It's like, if God called you to something, it's going to be perfect. If God tells you who your husband or wife is, it's going to be perfect. At the end of the day, most people will not go through what I have to go through. You're not going to have to, but I know what God's called me to, and therefore, you know, Bible says, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. And I know that I've gone through what I've gone through, so that some people don't have to. Like, you don't have to. Obviously, this is my journey and my testimony, but you will have to go, especially if the Lord has called you to. The higher the level of responsibility he's called you to, the more you're going to have to go through, the more you're going to have to die to yourself. And so I just pray, like, this is 10 years in Christ. Like, how can I be rejoicing about all of that? It's because of him that I have. Like, that is why, honestly, because, like, everything is worth it to know him. Like, honestly, everything is worth it to know him. And I'm so grateful, because I can't remember what year it was, but I just remember the Lord, basically, just before, I would say, he was about to start taking me through the enrollment, and he was asking me to say yes. And I said, Lord, I want to say yes. I was bawling. I didn't say this calmly. This was a bawling, screaming thing. Lord, I want to say yes, but I'm so alive, meaning I need so much of me. I care what people think. I care. My flesh is so alive, and I need you to kill me. I need you to deal with me, Lord. If I'm going to do what you call me to do, you need to deal with me. And for me to sit here, like, I want to cry, because I feel like, for me to sit here and to see that the Lord has actually done that, like, I actually don't care what you think. I actually don't care if people think, oh, your marriage is a shambles, you know, you say God said, and God, look, it's still like this. I'm like, God said, you look at all the people that God used in the Bible, I'm just talking a few years, yeah? Some people waited years to see the promise. And it's like, when you see the promise, it blows your mind, but it's a testimony. And so I'm pointing to the Lord who's faithful. And I just pray that you'll be encouraged to endure, because it's he who endures to the end that will be saved, you know? And the fact is, like, you see, it's through the trials and the patience that you experience the love of God. Romans 5:5, and it's just Romans 5:1-5. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So yeah, that is my testimony, some of it, guys. I'm so sorry that this video is so long. If you made it to the end, I pray you're blessed. Please comment, please subscribe, let me know what you thought. Share, you're allowed to share this video. And yeah, see you around. Hope to connect and share. But most importantly, God bless you, and I pray that you would allow him to take you through the journey that he wants to. Just say yes to everything, even if it hurts, even if you're afraid. Just do it. Just do what he tells you to do. Like, honestly, we can't plan out the journey. If I could actually tell my story properly, like, we can't plan. We're not that smart to feel like, I'm going to do this, and that's going to lead to this, and that's going to lead to that. We don't know. God knows, and he's so wise. And if you just trust him, he will take you to the place of destination. Just say yes at every point. Just say yes at every point. Okay, much love in Christ, guys.